will make a start. Our aim is always to finish promptly on time. In fact, we'll probably aim to finish a few minutes early because I'm very mindful that some of you may already be on your school holiday, as our two panelists are today. So even more grateful that they have joined us. But I'm also mindful, if you are still in school, that it is a very busy time of year as well. For those of you that haven't met me before, as it says on the screen, I am Simon, one of the Pobble co-founders. Pobble started here in Harrogate, North Yorkshire, in England, just over 8 years ago now. I was teaching a group of Year 5 children at the time, as well as being a school leader. Writing was a big area of focus in our school. Lots of children with EAL, English as additional language, lots of children with special educational needs. Writing, as in many schools, was often a key focus area of priority for us. So cutting a very long story short, having tried a number of different resources and a number of different tools, I could never quite find the right things for me. There were certain elements that I just felt there was almost a missing tool, a missing resource out there. So alongside some friends and colleagues, I set about creating what was originally called Lend Me Your Literacy, but basically the first version of the Pobble platform. And fast forward in 8 years, you know, we're really proud now to be working with lots of schools in England, state schools, independent schools, but a growing number of international schools as well. And having run a number of webinars and had a number of different calls over the last couple of months, we decided as an almost final webinar of the year that for those schools that were thinking about writing for next year, maybe had identified it already as a school priority, perhaps had explored Pobble already, but weren't quite sure how they wanted to move forward, that we would run one final session, which hopefully will convince you why schools become Pobble schools. And rather than just myself doing that, I've invited along Rosie, who you'll hear from in a moment, and Rachael, who have worked with Pobble now for many years, and they will share some of the things with you that have worked really effectively in their schools, in their classrooms, with their pupils, and of course, with their teaching team. Now, before I hand over to Rosie, for those of you that are very, very new to Pobble, it's really important to know that Pobble consists of a number of different elements. And what I will do at the end of Rosie's session is I will jump into the platform and demo a couple of aspects that Rosie mentions. And similarly, I might do that once Rachael has done her presentation as well. But fundamentally, it comes down to almost being a cycle. We have resources which allow teachers to plan and deliver their lessons. We have pupil tools, which are really around engaging the class through peer and self-assessment. We turn children into published authors, and we do that through the platform by providing the children with a real purpose for writing. And most recently, we've also added an online moderation tool to the platform as well. And obviously that moderation tool allows you to check that what you're doing is working, which then feeds back into that cycle. You go and find new content, you deliver that to the children, etc. Now, some of our schools use all elements of Pobble. Recently, we've been working with some schools that have only used moderation. We have teachers, individual teachers, that only use the resources element of Pobble. And we have schools like Rachael's and Rosie's that are starting to touch all aspects of the Pobble platform. But again, one of the things we've invited you along for today is for you to really think about, well, which elements of Pobble will work best for you, your children, and your school. And at the end of the session, I'll talk to you a little bit more about the options for working with us next year or later this school year if you are mid-year. But again, I'll talk to you a bit more about that as the session progresses. So having said all that, as mentioned, it's often better to hear, you know, I'm a very passionate teacher. I was in the school for 16 years, 2 different schools. I still post or pre-COVID used to spend a lot of time in schools, working with children, working with teachers. But we found as delegates like yourselves today, hearing from teachers that are actually using the products with their own children is even more powerful. So having said all that, I will hand over to Rosie. Rosie, if I will stop sharing my screen so that I can spotlight the camera onto you. I'll just stop sharing my screen. Just to say, if you have joined late, we are recording the session. So again, you will be sent a copy of this later. There is a live chat open so that as Rosie goes through her presentation, If you do want to ask anything, please do post the questions into the chat. I'll field some of those questions to the panelists at the end of their sessions, or I'll answer all of the questions at the end. So Rosie, if I can hand over to you, if you're okay to turn your camera on, Rosie, and I will then make you the host. Is it allowing you to turn your camera on, Rosie?
No, not yet.
And I'm going to make you the host, Rosie, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I think now, Rosie, at the end, you might need to remake me the host. I think if I make you the host, it will allow you to have your video on. Let me just try that. I'm going to change the host.
There we go.
Perfect. Okay.
You might have to help me make you a host because I'm not sure how to do that. Thank you, Simon. Thanks a lot. Hi, so my name is Rosie and I am head of English at a small private prep school in Henley on Thames. And we have been using Pobble for about 3 years now. And the most sort of amazing thing that we've noticed is how much our engagement in writing has increased. Every child in the school wants to have their work published on Pobble. They get to see it in assemblies, it's shared on our own social media platforms, it's shared within the classrooms, and also it's shared across the Pobble website where children from all around the world can see it, which our children love, and they also love being able to see the work from others around the world too. And Pobble has a great option to use other children's writing as a waggle, which works really well, and you can use brilliant exemplars and show the children what you would expect their writing to look like. Or in certain situations, you could say to them, you know, this is a really good example of a piece of writing, but I think you could do it even better. And it spurs them on to sort of write to the best of their ability. And there are a huge number of exemplars that you can look through, and they really are fantastic. So the first thing that we've been using Pobble for is for the publishing of writing, and also celebrating the children's writing. We've seen an increase in our pupil engagement, and the progress in our writing has been absolutely excellent. But above that, also, it's really engaged our parents, because they get a notification when their child has a published piece of work, which means that they can then log in through their own parent Pobble login, and they can see their children's writing, they can leave them a comment, they can see the comments that the teachers have left them from school, maybe teachers from other schools, children from other schools can also leave comments on writing. And it really does boost the self-esteem of all writers, but it's been particularly powerful for some of our less able, less confident, perhaps those who were unengaged with writing. It really has turned that on its head, which has been absolutely excellent, like I said, for our progress. It's also excellent for the students in our school to celebrate each other. Children have their own personal logins with a 4-digit code, and they can log into the website as they have a pupil sign-in section. And sometimes, maybe once a term, twice a term, we spend a little bit of time in a lesson just looking through children's work from our school initially, and we leave comments on children's work from all different year groups. We're using it from our kindergarten, our reception class, all the way up to year 6. And also leaving comments on other children's pieces of work from around the world. And I think that's quite an empowering thing for our children, or for anyone's children in school, to realise how important their voice is and that it can be heard from all corners of the planet. And so that's been brilliant for engagement from staff, parents, pupils. It's been really, really fabulous. We also have Pobble stamps, so we can stamp their work to say that they're a published author. We've got Pobble lanyards, which we haven't been able to use this year due to COVID and not being able to share things like that. But I'm hoping in September, if we can return to some semblance of normality, we'll be able to have our published authors wearing their lanyards around school. We aim to publish 3 a week from each class. Obviously, that doesn't happen every week, but that is our aim, is to publish 3 children a week. And that way we can sort of have our published authors on rotation, and they can be celebrated accordingly, which they really, really enjoy. We also use the Pobble lessons, and there are a huge number of them covering a huge genre of the curriculum, from, you know, the humanities, history, geography, all sorts of different grammar and punctuation lessons, all different topics. It's really, really very detailed, and you can tailor the lessons to suit you. So when I might be teaching something on apostrophes, and you can choose the age group that you want to deliver the lesson for. So I teach year 3 and 4, which works quite well. But obviously for my year 3s, I might take out some of the aspects of the lesson. For the year 4s, I might keep in more and make it a sort of more in-depth lesson. You could use them as short starters, or as a sort of more full lesson. And it's all on the screen. You can share it with the children, and we're lucky enough that every child in Key Stage 2 has their own device. And so we've started to introduce sharing the lessons with the children so that they then have them on their screen. And Pobble have introduced a new writing tool where the children can upload pieces of writing, and you can then assess them via the Pobble platform, which we haven't started to use yet, but that's something we're looking forward to in September. And there's also an element of it called Pobble 365, which is effectively a picture a day. And it's got story starters and sentence fixers, and it's excellent. We're sort of big believers in metacognition and getting the children to think more deeply about what might be happening in a scenario, or what might be happening in a picture, and sort of delving a little bit deeper into story writing. And we've seen some excellent pieces of work using the Pobble 365 tool. And you can choose a picture from any day and take the lesson from there, or you could choose the lesson for the particular day that you're teaching. So it's all based on the calendar. So if I went on today, there would be an amazing picture and a story starter. And I found it really engages every writer in the school, but particularly those actually who often struggle to create their own story starter ideas or to come up with their own plan. And it's given them sort of out of the box ideas that they might not have been able to come up with without the support of a more detailed stimulus. More recently, we have started to use the moderation tool, which has been absolutely excellent. We had brilliant training from Laura, who is the Pobble moderator, and we've been able to get a piece of work from, at the moment, we've done 1 child from each year group and shared 3 pieces of work. And we've looked through it online as a school, where you can add real-time comments live, everyone can see them, and then you can mark as either, the teacher of that class, or for me as the head of English, can go through, and then as a whole school of English teachers, we can assess the writing of each child in our year group. We can see the progression through the school. It's all saved online in the moderation folder, which is really, really useful. So we've got a bank of work that we can just pull up and look at any given moment. You can upload children's work without having to publish it and just put it in the evidence bank, so it's there for you when you need it. And we're really looking forward to using that regularly next year. And I hope that it's going to have a really positive impact on sort of our progress as a school, but also from year group to year group, seeing what's expected of each child and the level of work that's being produced by the children in the school. And with the thanks to Pobble, we have had huge progress in our writing. The attainment of our pupils has improved drastically. The presentation is excellent. And it's a really good way of saving planning time. Using the lessons is really, really effective. The children enjoy it. They're really, really engaging. And, I have found it incredibly useful, and it's an excellent tool for writing. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rosie. I'm wondering if you can make me host again. Rosie, you should be able to click onto my picture, if that's okay, at the top of the screen, and there should be 3 little dots. And that should allow you to make me the host again, if that's okay.
There we go.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I'll stop my video, shall I?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Rosie. Yeah, as mentioned, it's always really helpful, I think, to hear from school leaders, English leaders, people using the platform every day. So before I introduce you to Rachael, just following on from some of the things that Rosie mentioned, just to almost paint a picture to go with those brilliant words that Rosie's just shared with us. So I'm just going to share my screen, everybody. And I'm going to jump into the Pobble platform. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of the features that Rosie mentioned in her presentation. So fitting in with the cycle, Rosie mentioned Pobble 365 and the Pobble lessons. So just to highlight that within the Pobble platform, we now have a growing amount of content, all available through the resources area. Pobble 365 being one example, a daily picture supported with writing activities, but alongside that, lots of additional content as well. So one of the things I absolutely would encourage you to do is to go and have a look at that content if you haven't been in there already. The lessons themselves, so as well as Pobble 365, we have Pobble 365 Plus. So we're starting to experiment with adding extra slides to our Pobble 365 lessons for our subscribers. We have the themed-based lessons that Rosie mentioned for those cross-curricular writing opportunities, Pobble News, quick writes if stamina for writing is a bit of a challenge in your school, and those starter lessons which align with those key objectives that Rosie was mentioning. Now, in addition to the lessons themselves, we have a vault of 380,000 pieces of children's writing. So as Rosie discussed, I think it was at the beginning of her presentation, just being able to showcase to the children what good writing looks like, providing them with ideas, things that they can magpie and use in their own writing. Really, really powerful and a really unique part of the Pobble offer. Alongside that, we have very bespoke slides. So all of the Pobble lessons are built in our own lesson building tool. So things like success criteria you can build really easily, or we generate success criteria for you as well. We have ready-made word banks, but again, it's really easy to make your own. And a feature launched only last week, due to the success of Pobble 365, we've been experimenting with adding lots of additional images to the Pobble platform as well. So on those days that you just want to find a really inspiring image, maybe linked to a particular topic, there are lots and lots of new images within the Pobble platform as well for you to use. And as Rosie mentioned, what's brilliant about all of our content is, one, it's all completely editable. So if I click into a Pobble lesson, as demonstrated on the screen now, not only can I preview the lesson, but I have the power to edit any of the slides with my edit content button. And I also have the power now to add to the content using some of these bespoke slides that we've just mentioned. And again, part of becoming a Pobble school is that we would introduce to your staff Pobble through some training. We would help them to build or edit their first presentations, show them how to save them really easily. That training element is really important as well. And then alongside that content, as Rosie also mentioned, there is that ability to share that content in different ways. So pupils can access Pobble, and perhaps when Rachael's finished her session, I'll demonstrate the pupil tools to you very quickly, but everything can be presented, printed, shared with colleagues, but also now sent to an individual pupil login as well. Touching very quickly on a couple of the other elements that Rosie mentioned, the publishing side of Pobble is really, really important to us, and I'm absolutely certain that Rachael will mention this as well. We create a school area, the idea being that we want to provide that audience and purpose, that opportunity to celebrate writing in your school community, as Rosie mentioned, but also for English leaders, that sort of nice point of reference of this is what writing in our school looks like. And of course, the children are immensely proud to become those writers of the week. And then alongside that, either with the published pieces or with other pieces that are uploaded, we also have just launched this Pobble moderation tool. And the idea is that you can share work electronically, you can invite people to look at a collection of writing, and then through the technology in the platform, you can have an online discussion where you come to conclusions, to judgments around where this child is working. And as Rosie mentions, this is all saved really nicely into a school moderation area. It makes it easy. For example, Rosie's just invited me to a folder, so I can easily dip in and look at that. I can share all of my school files in one place. And for those of you joining in the UK, we've also recently added some exemplification materials for our teachers as well. So there's a lot in that moderation piece. If you are particularly interested in moderation, do check out the training and support tab. There's a 4-minute video in there that will explain that tool in a bit more detail. as well as a really nice one-page guide about how you could launch moderation in your particular school. And then finally, just to say, I'll just jump across to here. As Rosie rightly said, the celebration amongst the children is really, really important. And after Rachael has finished her session, I'll talk to you a little bit about how schools have embedded Pobble, some of the routines that they've put in place. But yeah, Rosie was right to point out that one of the best things you can do as a Pobble school is to celebrate those writers every week. And the lanyards she mentioned are on the screen, along with the certificates that we encourage our schools to hand out as well. So again, just hopefully they're putting a few pictures to some of those brilliant words that Rosie said. And yeah, big thank you to Rosie for joining us. If you do have any specific questions for Rosie, do remember that the chat is open. I know Rosie might need to dash off at some point soon. It is a holiday. But again, if you do have any questions, please post those into the chat. Now, I will stop sharing my screen at this point. I'm now going to make Rachael Wilding the host. So Rachael, I'll hopefully hand it over to you. Now, just to say, Rachael is joining us from Malta, actually, but she is from one of our international schools. But like any head teacher, Rachael has been so supportive of Pobble on their journey as a school. And Rachael's presented a number of times for us recently around the work that she's done. Her presentations are always really, really well received from our schools. I know that she's prepared some slides to share with you as well. So Rachael, thank you so much for giving up your time in your holiday. And yeah, I will hand over to you. Thanks, Rachael.
Okay, hello, I'll just pop my video on. It's always tricky going at the end of the sort of presentations, because a few of the things that I will talk about obviously have already been touched on by Simon, or really passionately spoken about by Rosie. But yeah, we've been with Pobble for a good 2.5 years now, and very similar trend that is seen amongst all Pobble schools internationally and within the UK, is that real lift in children's attainment and progress, and just their sheer pleasure of getting to grips with their own personal writing journey. For me, Pobble using it in the school and the impact it can have, it gives all our children a real reason for writing, and it gives a real writing community. And there's nothing better than walking into a writing lesson and seeing children, share the fact that they've had a comment in from their granny who lives in Australia, or there's been a child from a school in the UK told them that they're working on Grade 5 London writing, and good job. So it really focuses that understanding of writing and the fact that it can become global. They really are genuinely published authors. So that writing community has really lifted our attainment. The resources that you get by being part of the Pobble community are exceptionally high quality, and they're constantly being developed. And I think that's been the real joy of being on the journey, that what we bought into 2.5 years ago was absolutely good enough for us. But the fact that it's been embellished and improved, and support has been given along the way to us as part of the community, just shows what a high quality tool and platform that it is. Peer and self-reflection, like I said, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to, particularly in the past year with the pandemic, walk into writing lessons, and you're actually able to see peer evaluation and reflection still happening via the tools within the Pobble platform. Moderation, Simon's already spoken about that. And again, in this pandemic time, it's been so helpful to be able to come together as a community of primary school teachers and leaders, English leads, and be able to talk about writing and moderation without having to have any of the problems that we're all facing at the moment. I think one of the major things for me is it supports planning, and for a lot of when we get into that hook of planning our new topics in my school, the real richness of the writing within the Pobble platform has supported our teachers. So, if they're starting a new topic on, say, explorers in year 4, our teaching staff really do delve in and have a look at the exemplars, have a look at the waggles, and see, you know, what can they get out of a year 4 child within this topic? You know, can they swap around some of their objectives because they've now got a better idea of than what they had before? Time saving, absolutely. You know, it's very easy to use. And as a school leader, you know, I constantly have my middle leaders come to me and say, oh, this is another great idea. This is another platform we could use. And we are very, very clear that it's got to be user friendly, not just for the children, but also for our staff. We've gone down the rabbit hole a couple of times with digital platforms where we buy something because it looks great, but actually when you're using it day in, day out, it's not so user friendly. And so Pobble really is on that 10 out of 10 for that. Staff understand how to use it. New staff coming in can get to grips with it very, very quickly. And alongside that, children are actually able to teach their peers how to use Pobble because they become so au fait with how the platform works. Obviously, a waggle, what a good one looks like, is a great, you know, bit of vocabulary and primary vocabulary. And for me, the fact is that Pobble really has got equal ability for both teachers and children. For teachers, like I mentioned, you know, it gives them planning ideas. There's that benchmark element to actually see where standards can get to, moderation and feedback. For children, they love to be able to magpie ideas. They love to be able to edit their work. And we'll quite often either use a magpie in the beginning and have a waggle hunt, etc., or we'll actually use it at the end and it's part of their editing process. So they may well have written, you know, about a gladiator diary account. They'll then go into their Pobble account afterwards and then waggle hunt at the end so that they're able to then edit their own piece of writing in a sort of self-reflection style. For me, it brings about better progress. It gives challenge to our children. It's a platform that can be used independently by children, and it saves a lot of time. We had a great sample of this where we were chatting to some of our parents at the end of the academic year. And it was great to hear from this one dad that said, do you know, my children don't actually even do bedtime story reading. We also let them have a waggle hunt every week. And so we, like Rosie's school, they have their own one-to-one tablets. And this family had introduced on the children's you know, request that they wanted to be able to do their reading at night using waggles. So, you know, it really is a lovely independent resource for all children. As mentioned by Simon and by Rosie, it's real high impact lessons to motivate children. The quality is constantly there, and it's not like you go, oh, that bit's okay and that bit's not. It really is a platform that prides itself on having high quality, user-friendly resources. It's great for holiday top-ups, and we often use the Pobble platform and all the little extras that are provided. You know, as much as this is a digital platform, the team at Pobble are constantly also producing non-digital activities, 25 best ways to use your eco day, or 25 ways to have non-screen time, etc. And so for us, it's a real opportunity to use every single area of the platform, not just the most important bit for us. It's obviously being able to publish work and produce lesson content, but there are so many more resources within that platform. So supporting the community, I mean, like I said before, the great thing about being part of a Pobble school is that it's not just pay and go away. You know, they really are with you on that journey, and the resources that are there are absolutely what you think, oh, I really could do with one of those. And you genuinely practically always find it within that platform. And if you don't, a small email to one of the support team you know, you pretty much will find it within a month to 2 months. You know, it is about making sure that as a community we're supported and we're listened to. And I think that's been a really great part of Pobble and the journey that it's been on. Blogs and non-digital, CPD, the whole edgy Twitter type of thing, it's all there the minute that you sort of dip your foot into the Pobble pond. And as you can see samples here, the product on the platform and the products that are able to be downloaded, printed, resources to have, are all of an exceptional high quality. Now, I'm a firm believer that no man is an island, and I really instill at my school that no sort of edutech should be on its own either. And Pobble really is a perfect partner. I'm going to talk you through a couple of lessons that I witnessed in the past term. And this is where I think it really works well, particularly in primary, where we're using digital tech to the best of its ability, but combining it as well. So this was a lesson where the children were going to write about a mouse trap, and they used Padlet in the beginning to really create a word bank of as a class. You know, this was because we had a combination of online learners and face-to-face, but socially distanced. And so they were able to collaborate with those sentence starters and time connectives together. Then the teacher had already used Pobble to pre-select some text and extract them. These are differentiated. So your higher ability were having one set of work, and your lower ability were another, etc. So began to waggle hunt off their tablets with the work that had already been selected by the teacher. After that, the children then went on to write their own mousetrap sort of piece of writing, and then it was published on Seesaw for their parents to see. And at that point, we were still going with audio marking, or sorry, verbal feedback. And so for marking purposes, our writing's been put onto Seesaw rather than marking in our books. Another perfect example, a great lesson in year 2, we had a virtual school visit from Thomas Fariner using the virtual school visit site. The children then searched for their own vocabulary this time using the Pobble platform. They then created their own newspaper report for the Great Fire of London. They obviously published that work and then peer assessed that writing. The normal, we have a weekly system of Pobble awards within each year group. And we used to do this at an assembly, but because they've gone virtual this year, we've kept that within the year group. So this is a piece where you can see they've been published, and then they also had the Writer of the Week award. And then we finished it off using Chatterpix, and part of the eyewitness account was then put into a Chatterpix video. So again, Pobble's got that real richness that it can be combined with lots of other great high quality edutech. Children can anytime, anywhere, and I think that is the joy of it, that children are able to interact, they're able to take leadership roles on, they're able to take ownership of their own writing. And what we've really seen is it's been wonderful to support, like Rosie said, are more able, particularly where they can dip into, extend themselves with vocabulary and structure. It's been incredibly powerful for our less able, and real support for parents as well. You know, where you've had that opportunity to show and showcase, we're aware that, you know, your child is at this level at the moment, but, you know, this is where we can get to. Let me show you a snapshot of a child over 2 years using our Pobble, you know, and we're able to track that as a portfolio of writing. So, you know, it's a real powerful resource for every member of the community, parents, teachers, and children. Recognition and praise, we're all teachers, we all know that it is absolutely vital part of what we do. And yeah, as a school, we go for it 100%. We use everything that the platform can provide, from your lanyards, your stickers, your certificates, etc. We also make sure that we comment on it. We have protected time within the school to make sure that we comment on things. And as a school leader, it's important to me that I comment on different bits of work for each of the classes. We've taken it even further. As you can see in the bottom of the screen, we've got, you know, our own Insta frame, and there's a huge wall outside my office where if you go above and beyond being Writer of the Week, or if that person just needs a little bit further motivation, as well as publishing on the platform, your work is then copied and stuck onto the Pobble wall. So it's a big thing in our school. I think children absolutely, you know, they're growing up in a world of social media, and, you know, they understand views and likes and all of that type of thing. They absolutely thrive on the fact that their work has been viewed over 20 times, 50 times. And certainly what we've found is that the boys are incredibly competitive and perhaps not so get up and go about their writing. It's really lit a fire in their tummies when they start to see that their work is being viewed over and over again. So it's definitely worked for us in that way. Supporting writing all over the world. I mean, obviously we are, my school's in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. We have English, obviously, as one of our core subjects. However, we also have Arabic as one of our core subjects. And it's been wonderful to see that Pobble can be used in absolutely the same way, but with an Arabic language lessons. And it's been great. And as you can see here, we've got a huge range of Arabic writing in our portfolio. And our staff in the Arabic department have also now gone through the training, etc. And so where we may not have been at the top of our game in terms of peer assessment and modelling and waggling in Arabic, we now really have that opportunity. So it's not just about that English writing either. We've really found it very, very useful for writing in another language. In a way, a little bit of rounding up, you know, praise, absolutely, involving the whole community near and far is, I think, one of the top reasons that Pobble really works for me. Cost, it's for everything that you get, it's incredibly reasonable, and I like to stretch my budget, so it's really good value for money. You know, you get your CPD in there, you get continuous provision that's changed, and yeah, so cost is a huge thing that's worked in our favour. It's a piece of the puzzle, you know, at the end of the day. It gives people the opportunity, reason for writing, ways to compare, opportunities to magpie, find different language when you might not even know that you were looking for it. So, you know, it's an absolute being piece of the puzzle. I'm not saying we don't use anything else. Absolutely, we have a whole different range of things that we can dip into, but Pobble absolutely is in there as one of our core. Balance for the time spent. I mean, teaching this year, as everybody knows on here, has been harder than ever. And a platform that can save my teachers time is always going to be powerful. The resources and the quality, the ability to edit, the fact that we can cut down on, you know, teacher workload is absolutely superior for me. It supports writing targets, and I think it's an area that we in the past years ago and at my previous school, you know, we always said that we did our writing targets, that we checked on them. This really has helped us to support writing targets, because children will quite often in our school print off a waggle of where they want to get to, you know, and that really has, you know, spurred them on to really make that personal progress. And again, like Rosie and Simon have said, you know, it's easy to use. Teachers, children, parents, because it's so easy, it is used all the time. And I think that's it. It's not something that you buy into and then you just forget about, and it comes up to the end of another year and you think, oh, I'll give it another go next year. It is something that really becomes part of your embedded English. And because of that reason, you know, it really has made all the difference to our progress and attainment. That's about it from me. Short and sweet, I'm hoping. But yeah, for me, it's been a winner since we started 3 years ago, and it continues to just outdo itself year on year as our educational tech platform, definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm wondering whether you can make me host again, Rachel, if that's okay.
Yeah,
you should be able to click on the screen at the top.
There we go. Change host and stop sharing. Okay.
I think that should work. Let's see.
Okay.
That should be working. That's brilliant. Well, yeah, first of all, yeah, just a huge thank you, Rachel. Yeah, Rachel's currently trying to get back to the UK via Malta, where I believe she has to be for 10 days before she's allowed into the UK. But she's given up some very valuable time in her holiday. So yeah, really do appreciate it. And again, Rachel, it's nice in a way to hear some of the things repeated and you know, hear your journey as a school and touching upon all those different elements. So yeah, as always, a huge thank you for yeah, for your time. And yeah, if you do have any questions, Rachel does need to dash, I know that. Valuable family time to go to, but if you do have any questions, do post them into the chat. And obviously, Rachel, we've shared your social media details and Rosie's on the chat as well. So if people do want to give you a follow on Instagram, on Twitter, and see what you do at your wonderful school, I'm sure you would, yeah, you would welcome some new followers to your channel. But yeah,
totally. And as Simon said, you know, anyone coming from an international school, more than happy to do a one-to-one connect. And Anna and Simon are forever connecting different people in the little Pobble team and champion group. So more than happy at any time. But yes, my husband might kill me if I don't go now. So
no, that's
cheerio
lovely.
from Malta.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. So
Bye.
Before I bring the session to a close, a couple of people have asked about subscriptions and becoming a Pobble School. I just wanted to share with you one more element of the platform, and that was the pupil tools that were mentioned by both Rosie and Rachel in their presentation. So very briefly, as part of becoming a Pobble School, we create accounts for all of your children, and that is so that they can become published authors. That's so that you can upload work for moderation. But also, technology dependent, of course, it allows the children to log into Pobble as well. Now, for those of you with ICT suites, with access to iPads and Chromebooks in school, or even with children accessing technology at home, Pobble still works really, really effectively. Obviously, the more technology that's there, the more often the children can access the platform. And there's really three elements to the pupil tools. Number one, you can send lessons, as demonstrated earlier, directly to a pupil login. So what that means, I think Rosie mentioned it in her presentation, is that children can access all of the content, all of the slides that you put together. You can do some pre-teaching. They have a copy of it to use later. And then really, really importantly, the children always have that option to upload a photograph of their writing or to type into the platform as well. Now, alongside being able to type into the platform, the children can also review their work on the platform as well. And this is a really special part of Pobble. Children can self-assess their writing using our success criteria that you've added as a teacher or you've selected from our sort of bank of criteria. Children can annotate. Children can leave comments for their teacher. You can even set functionality that their work will go to a peer for a review before the child then gets to edit it. And of course, there's lots of research around that whole editing phase for writing, that feedback. How can children, you know, those children that just do their first version and hand it in, what support can we offer them to make that writing even better? And Pobble is so well placed to support that. Now, the second aspect of the pupil tools is that there isn't, of course, always time for you to send lessons to the children. So we've created a resource area for the pupils. So this allows them to access content that the Pobble team put into the platform, as an example, Pobble 365. They can access this again independently for things like Free Write Fridays, homework activities, but then most importantly, they always have that option to add work and send it through to the teacher as well. So again, that might be homework, it might be independent, extension tasks, intervention groups. It also might be for that parent that says they need some extra to do at home. What can you give us? And obviously children logging in themselves and being able to access that content is really, really important. And then the third aspect, I think Rachael touched upon it a little bit in her presentation, was we also give children the power to go and look at the examples of children's writing online. I love that thought of children, instead of reading a book, sat in Dubai, reading a piece of writing from a child in London or Manchester or Birmingham or Henley, where Rosie is based. And again, it's a really nice set of functionality. The children can filter by age. They can filter by their own school or the world or their own writing so that they can show their parents. And as a more specific teaching tool, you can even encourage them to look for particular types of writing that they can magpie ideas from. And again, all of this is included as part of becoming a Pobble School. We do see these tools being used more in Key Stage 2. For those of you joining outside of the UK, that would be sort of children aged 7 and above. Although for publishing reasons and moderation, most schools do set up the whole school on Pobble, but certainly when they come to access Pobble a bit more independently, we would expect it to be the slightly older children that were using the platform. So I'm going to switch into a different screen and start to bring the presentation to a little bit of a close. Now, in terms of next steps, there's a couple of slides that I just wanted to share with you. Somebody has asked in the chat, I'm just going to share the screen. Somebody asked in the chat around, recommended routines for Pobble. There's a lot of content there, Simon, but what's the reality of, how do people use it? So one of the things that I offer as part of a school subscription is training for people leading Pobble in their school. And earlier this week, I was running a session with a number of our Pobble champions. And what I tried to outline to them is, there are things that you could use on a daily basis. Pobble 365 is a really good example. There are things that we think teachers use weekly. So celebration, as Rosie mentioned, homework, that whole maybe independent write on a Friday that lots of my schools do. There are then aspects of Pobble that might be used on a termly basis, moderation. All of our lessons, our theme-based lessons are differentiated 6 times. So they're perfect for things like whole school writing days. And then, of course, alongside all of that, there are tools that can just be used whenever you're putting a writing plan together. That might be, I need an example text. That might be, I need a success criteria, Simon. It might be, I want a writing map for the table or a waggle mat, as well as, of course, some of the other resources that Rachael mentioned in her presentation. So again, we will potentially share this slide with you. If you do come on board with becoming a Pobble School, of course, you will be invited along to that Pobble Leader training as well. Which really moves me to, how do you get involved with working with us? So one of the documents I will send through to you is what you get when you become a Pobble School. What I've really tried to outline in there is everything that Rachael and Rosie have talked about today, from the resources, the lessons, the builder, the pupil tools, the publishing, the moderation, and of course the training that goes alongside that. And it's all outlined really carefully in that document, something that you can discuss with your SLT in terms of, is this going to work for our school? Again, which bits do we introduce when? And of course, the training and support that goes alongside that is really, really important. Now, in terms of costs, what does that look like? So I'm just going to jump to a slightly different screen. Bear with me a moment. Just going to jump to here. Slide on to the next slide. So why partner with us and the cost involved? So we really believe that, there is going to be significant time saved in terms of planning and the high quality resources that are there. We've talked about it briefly, but, in terms of writing, peer and self-assessment can make such a big difference, and we're set up perfectly to do that. Audience and purpose, we know, makes a big difference to children in terms of what they produce. And it was interesting that both Rachael and Rosie identified that as being a significant factor in improving writing attainment in their school. And of course, finally, that opportunity to improve moderation, cross-school moderation through the platform as well. Now, what we're going to send to you on the back of today is a discount code. We realize that some of you are joining and it's the real end of term and you're looking to put something in place for the new school year. And actually it might be budget that's holding you back. It might be that you just need the document to talk about with your SLT. So alongside sending you the document, alongside sending you some follow-up information and a recording of today's webinar, we will send you a discount code, which is Pobble 600. That's basically offering you Pobble at a 50% discount if you move forward by next Friday with becoming a full Pobble school for the new academic year. For those of you joining outside of England, I appreciate some of you have slightly different term times. We will also honour that code as well. It does convert to your local currency through our pricing page. But if you do have any questions, I know we've got some teachers joining from the UAE and from Canada this evening, do reach out to us if you do need any help with that Pobble subscription. And you can sign up through our Pobble Schools page and our pricing page. And before I finish the presentation, I will flick back quite quickly and show you that link. Now, before I do that, I'm just going to pause for one moment because I do have a couple of additional questions that come through. And then, as I say, I will finish by sharing with you exactly where you can find that information on the Pobble website. So I think it might be Anna that's posted in the chat, perhaps. Yeah, so somebody's just asked a little bit more information about the training. So yeah, really good question. If I just change my screen very quickly, I'm just going to jump into the platform again. Bear with me a moment. So all of the training that goes alongside becoming a Pobble school is delivered by myself. And at the moment, that is free training. So we offer it in a couple of different ways. We embed videos within our platform. We have a really comprehensive set of training videos that school leaders can use to introduce Pobble to their schools. Alongside that, every week, I run online sessions. Now, some of those are for leaders of Pobble, and we tend to run those at the beginnings of term so that people can sort of begin to embed Pobble within their own school. So again, if you have an identified leader of Pobble, they would be invited for free to those 90-minute sessions. And all of the materials that we use are then shared with the Pobble champions and Pobble leaders afterwards. From a school perspective, you are also invited to send all of your teachers along to one of the online sessions as well. And again, for international schools, we offer recordings of those sessions if they don't quite align with your time zone. And they're also provided through videos in the platform as well. And people can come back as many times as they want to. The only additional thing we do charge for is we offer bespoke moderation support. So that's working alongside my colleague Laura, just as Rosie mentioned earlier, for schools that feel like they need some extra support moderating their own writing, because in a way that's almost advisory support rather than training. Actual training to use the tool we offer for free through the platform. So yeah, there's no hidden costs. You don't have to book me in to come and visit your school to deliver a CPD session. In the world that we're living in at the moment, everything is delivered online, and that can be for your leaders, but it can also be for your team of teachers as well. And you can come back as many times as you want to once you become a full Pobble school. So I hope that answers the question or questions from those people coming through. In terms of those videos, just to say it is worth checking out our training and support page. It's really comprehensive. It will be reviewed a little bit over the summer, but this is where all of our webinars are advertised. It's where all of our getting started documents are placed. It's where all of our training videos are hosted as well. And I think it's always nice to hear from other people, but something we really do pride ourselves in as former teachers, I don't think you're ever not a teacher, is the way that we do support our schools. I certainly was guilty in my own school of investing in EdTech and not then spending the right time training my school. Or we bought EdTech and we were just left to use it. We were never given the training that really we needed to make the most of the platform. And I think that's a really important thing that Rachael and Rosie mentioned, that yeah, we do offer really good support because we know it's important so that you get full value for money from the platform that you're investing in. So finally, before I stop, because I did say that we would finish on time or a couple of minutes early, When you do visit pobble.com, at the very top, there is a link to our schools page where you will find a little bit of extra information. If you are convinced already, which I hope that you are, if you visit the Pobble pricing page, you will see our Pobble for My Class offer and our school subscription offer. And from here, you can click Buy Now. And from there, you are asked then to apply that discount code. And you can pay online, you can pay via bank transfer. We generate an invoice for you as well so that you can even pay by check. So again, we hopefully have got all of those bases covered. But we will outline all of that in the follow-up email as well. So I will stop at that point. I really do appreciate you coming along today. I hope that most of you have come along because you're either already a Pobble School and you just wanted to hear from some really enthusiastic teachers, or that you are at the point where you're considering Pobble for next year. And I hope that we have done a good enough job of convincing you, why becoming a Pobble School is so special, and most importantly, the impact that it will have on your teachers and your children.